Welcome back to Two Who's Review. I'm Alex,
I'm Fitz.
I'm Sam.
and today we are closing out the Key to Time story arc in classic series Doctor Who with the Armageddon Factor. Now, this is the first time that we will have completed a full series of classic Doctor Who. Like, usually we do a scattergun. This is the first time that we'll have finished season
16, I believe.
16. Yes, you're correct. It's season 16. Yeah. We've clocked it. We're not coming back. And it's time to answer the questions that we were posing at the end of Power of Kroll, which is how satisfying is the Key to Time narrative going to be overall? How standalone is Armageddon Factor going to be? I'm quite pleased to say that the Armageddon Factor is, I think, one of the only stories in this entire run, if not the only story, that actually matters that it is part of the Key to Time storyline. Like, this one is not standalone. Yeah. This one actively requires the Key to Time to be involved in order to happen.
That's true. I do have a bit of a problem with the ending, but we'll get to that later on.
Sure.
Would this episode have worked without the Key to Time?
No, actually, it wouldn't have.
No. Really? Wow.
Yeah,
please,
can you imagine this story? Can you imagine this story without Lalla Ward? I can't.
Yeah, that was weird.
Well, yes, because this is also the last appearance of Romana 1.
Yeah,
Mary Tam.
Mary Tam leaves at the end of this season.
Well,
I forget
I don't know if you could. So I when I realized that Lalla Ward was in it, and I was like, oh, yeah. Okay, that's Romana 2. How does that shake out? When I was done watching it, I found the scene from the start of the next story of Romana regenerating, which is literally just the Doctor turns around and sees Princess Astra, and she's like, yeah, I'm trying on a new body. Do you like it? I thought she looked pretty cute. So, like, we don't even see Mary Tam leave. No, the episode just ends. He's fixing K9, turns around, and is like, oh, you look like her now? That's going to get confusing. You look like this person we just hung out with. And then you have, like, a revolving door of, like, weird-looking women come forms. In. This is, like, one who's, like, 8 feet tall. And he's like, no, that won't do. You have one who looks like a fucking, like, opera singer with the metal bikini and all that. So it's like, no, definitely not.
And then there's
one
one
that's
like
a weird little alien child. He's like, I don't even know why the fuck you thought that was even close to a good idea.
Yeah, we've already reviewed Destiny of the Daleks. That weird canon-breaking regeneration scene is far from the worst thing about that story.
Yeah, that was probably one of the more entertaining parts of that story.
I seem to remember reading somewhere that, like, at the time, the canon was that Time Lords regenerate to, like, repair their body, start a new life over, all the usual stuff. But the Time Ladies could just do it whenever, and it was like
really?
it was like a gendered thing. That might not even be real. I don't even remember where I read that, but like,
right.
Obviously, that is not the case now.
Yeah,
as we now understand Time Lords in general to be much more fluid, yada yada yada. But yeah.
Well, on this,
the main thing was I just wanted to know: do they actually address the fact that she looks exactly like the princess?
Beyond just saying,
or is it just is it a hand wave in the way that we've like come to expect companions showing up in a series in like a minor role and then playing?
Arguably, it isn't even a hand. And it's arguably not even a hand wave because they explicitly say at the start of Destiny that Romana's just like, I liked that face, I'm taking it.
Yeah,
like it was a conscious decision on her part.
Like Capaldi, not a conscious decision, but an unconscious decision is like follows that precedent.
Yeah,
and
so does and Colin Baker.
Yeah, and the oh yeah, that's true, and the Ainsley Master also kind of does that, but in a more sinister, I just stole your body outright way. So
yeah,
kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. This is Mary Tam's last performance as Romana. She had said that she didn't like that Romana was becoming a damsel in distress character, which I have noticed that towards the back end of this storyline. And I think she also said, I think she made the decision during Armageddon Factor that she was going to leave, because I think she said something like, I've explored all I've wanted to with the character. I did read somewhere, and I don't know how true this is, but apparently one of the Doctor Who producers at the time mentioned that it was because Mary Tam was pregnant and had to leave the show because of that, and Mary had to keep being like, "No, that didn't happen." So I don't know how real that is, but yes, they in a case of in a very Freema Agyeman way, even though it was decades afterwards. I guess Lala Ward was so popular on set with the cast and crew, and also put in a good performance, and they were just like, "Hey, you want to stick around?"
Well, she's popular enough with Tom Baker.
Well, certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, Armageddon Factor. It's the only Key to Time storyline to be 6 episodes long. I'm not going to lie and say that it needs to be that long. There were definitely parts of episodes 3 and 4 where I was kind of like drifting out a bit. And like, come on, get a move on.
Sorry, I just remembered some tiny bit of trivia. As of Stolen Earth, 2 of Lala Ward's husbands have shown up in the show, because there's a little tiny little scene where for some reason Richard Dawkins shows up.
Which is funny because
he's not an astrophysicist, he's a biologist, so I don't know why they put him in a scene like that, but
because he's a somewhat recognizable TV personality.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he wears glasses and wrote
It should have been someone like Patrick Moore.
Or Brian Cox or something.
Yeah.
Well, both of those people will show up as themselves in the Matt Smith era. So
yes,
don't worry.
Not that Brian Cox. Sorry, the space dude.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Professor Brian Cox.
There are 2 Brian Coxes, just as there are 2 Patrick Moores. One of each set is involved in movies. One in each set is involved in space.
And the space ones are in the Matt Smith era for a bit.
Yeah.
Funny.
But also, small bit of trivia. Part 1 of Armageddon Factor is the 500th episode of Doctor
Who.
Well, there you go.
Also, Richard Woodvine, the guy who plays the Marshal, he ironically plays a doctor in An American Werewolf in London.
John Woodvine.
O-T-He. John Woodvine, thank you.
And Valentine Diol, the actor of the Black Guardian, was originally considered to be the second Doctor.
Huh.
Anyway, that's enough trivia. Let's talk about what's in the episode.
Yeah.
It's one of those war episodes. War is bad.
I wanna address one question that I think should bear answering, and you sort of touched on it earlier. Does this need to be 6 episodes?
I could have been 5, I think.
Yeah, I would say it definitely needs to be more than 4.
I agree,
but I would say I think 6 is probably a good length for this story if you just rearrange the pacing of certain things.
Sure, I agree with that.
Like, one option is to cut things down to 5. The other option is just shuffle things about so that certain things don't take as long, certain other things are given more room to breathe.
Like,
and then 6 doesn't feel as bad.
For example, Drax, for instance. No, I'm not going to say that because that's just going to annoy you, Sam. But him being in this story.
You know what's even more annoying?
What?
Is someone saying they're not going to say something and then not explaining why.
I presume that what you were going to say was something to the effect of, now, could you remove Drax from the story and have it be exactly the same?
Something to the effect. But here's the thing, though. I don't think that's true.
No.
Not least of all because of the fact that he's so entertaining.
I love Drax. He's so funny.
He's such a fun character. The story would have been so boring without him in it. And what I mean by that is not just even he's another Time Lord, but him specifically. He's so his fun.
Energy. Well, it caught me so off guard when it happened, because I had this thing of like, oh, this is some like junker or trader that the Doctor's run into on their travels. But when it's like, wait, this is one of the Doctor's friends from the Time Lord Academy, I remember thinking to myself, wait, they can do this? Because obviously that's never come up in Revival Who. It's not a thing that can have happened. So like it just showing up here and not even being something that they draw that much attention to as this like almost like, I'm not even going to say it's that important part of the Doctor's backstory, but it's Doctor backstory stuff in general. So the fact that it just shows up and it's like, oh, this is happening. What? And for a moment, I did have a thought of like, what is Drax calling the Doctor? Is that not his name? Like he calls him Theet,
I was going to say
like that.
Yeah.
Like, what is the origin of that name? Why does he call him Theet?
Maybe that's his real name. Maybe that's
you have to presume that that's a nickname he had before taking on the name the Doctor.
Yeah, true. It's not referenced anywhere on the Armageddon Factor
at the
TARDIS
time
wiki page.
The episode came out, I guess maybe that could have just been the Doctor's real name. But now, with everything else we've seen and like all the enormous importance that the Doctor's name has been given as a concept, you can't really just be like, oh yeah, Armageddon Factor, his name's like Theta 5 or something.
Well, because on each episode, each episode's page on the TARDIS fandom, it's got a world building section, and there's normally stuff like references to the real world, but there's also stuff about Time Lords and technology that exists in this world. Like, for example, on this world building page for Armageddon Factor, it's stuff like Atrios and Zeos are in the Helical Galaxy, or Drax suggests a plan which includes having the Fourth Doctor flying to a door to shut it, as being like elements of world building. But not at any point on this page does it say anything like the Doctor used to go by the name Theet or something like that. Like, it's, for some reason, it's just that like insignificant of a detail even to the TARDIS wiki. And meanwhile, I'm here stewing over it, being like, why does he call him that? And I'm
looking at the TARDIS wiki page for Drax himself to see if I can find anything.
I looked at that. That was the second thing I looked up. That's also non-existent on that page.
That's crazy.
And then I was like, well,
what's also crazy is that there are 13 incarnations of Drax.
Well, yeah,
across various audios.
Time Lords get 13 bodies. That's established.
I mean, the fact that this character has been revisited enough times that that many incarnations can have specific things tied to them.
Yeah.
Drax 13.
Well, like I said,
there's an audio drama called The Trouble with Drax.
The Trouble with Drax. So yeah, most of these all come from that one. And there's one prose story called Divided Loyalties about the first one that knew the first Doctor. And then second Drax is the one we see here in this episode.
Yeah, the Trouble with Drax audio drama includes 11 incarnations of Drax as a character.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, as I said, he's clearly an entertaining character. And it's interesting, Sam, I made the joke earlier, does he really need to be in the episode? But I actually would have preferred it if he was in the story earlier. Because he is that sort of entertaining. And he comes in quite suddenly, which isn't a bad thing, but I just thought it could have been really interesting if he was introduced earlier on, like 3 Time Lords together fighting, evil and
Fighting the
whatnot.
Black Guardian.
I mean that would have been quite interesting. I think.
Yeah, he does kind of just like crawl out of a tunnel out of nowhere and kind of hijack the last third of the story.
Yeah. And I want to say that the suddenness seems to be largely because he's a Time Lord and knew the Doctor, which is pretty big stuff. But again, it's also because he's got such a big magnetic personality that you want him to be in there earlier.
Yeah.
It's quite strange. I guess the other thing I want to bring up in terms of the plot and how long should this whole story be, the basically the two plot threads, right? The war and the key to time, which they almost feel like two separate stories to an extent. How well do we think those two are married together in this story?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's lip service paid to them being connected because like the entire war was masterminded in an effort to find or draw out not just the last piece of the key, but also the Doctor and the other components of the key himself. But there is also that line that's paid later on about, oh, this war between Atrios and Zeos is like a blueprint for what we're going to do to the rest of the universe, pitting them at war with each other, mutually assured destruction, blah blah blah, all that stuff. I think in terms of like stakes, putting the key to time aside, I do think this episode has the biggest stakes of the key to time storyline part 2. Like this looming threat of the destruction of 2 planets as a result of this war. And I do think that's kind of necessary in the final part. You can't have part 6 of this storyline be another Power of Kroll, for example, where like it's really like just this one tribe of like settlers as well as a band of arsehole scientists that are in danger. If it's the 6th key, you gotta ramp up the stakes, and having there be a galactic war, I think, makes as much sense as any to ramp the stakes up.
Sure. No, I guess that makes sense. I was gonna say something, I've forgotten it. But I think for me, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. You're finishing your point.
I think for me, it works and it doesn't. By which I mean, do I think it could have been tied together more neatly? Yeah, sure. And it's a little strange going from one thing to the other. Granted, not as shocking as the courtroom drama that shows up halfway through the Stones of Blood. But it is I don't know.
I think it's more coherent than that.
It is. I'm just saying they're doing some stretching. I guess is what I'm.
Well, I think it's just ultimately just a byproduct of where we're at now. Like, if we're used to this being a revival era storyline, like by the time the second last episode of the season begins, they've assembled the key, and then the 2-part finale is about what happens with the key, and it's about the struggle between the Black and White Guardians.
Yeah,
we're just not in an era of television as a whole, but certainly not Doctor Who, where that kind of thing is possible.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and I think that,
yeah, well,
it's fine enough.
The war happens, and then like the second half of the episode uses established elements from the war and the 2 planets and characters that we found as our MacGuffins to finish the key to time.
And that was actually pretty interesting in itself, I will admit. Like the whole the loop, the time loop, was introduced in an interesting way, and it gave it a fair bit of tension in the background. That was I think that was pretty cool, actually.
Well, I think that's your answer. I think it's the fact that they actually use the key. as the way to resolve the conflict in this story, this supposedly separate storyline. I think that's what sells it for me, and especially because when they do the time loop, like the fact that it is a rush job because they don't have the sixth piece of the key. And there's the whole element of the loop is going to keep degrading, but also when the piece falls apart, the loop ends in general. Like, it puts a ticking clock on the time loop in a very, very interesting way that you don't always see from classic Doctor Who. I think I've mentioned it in an episode we discussed in the past. I forget which one, but it's always interesting seeing classic Who actually do stuff with time in really interesting and unique ways. Because that's a thing, largely because Moffat made that part of his identity. We get a lot of that kind of stuff in Revival era Who, but we don't get very much of it in the classic era. But when they do it, I find it so fascinating, because that seems like this is like other sci-fi has done time, but this seems like the kind of thing that only Doctor Who does, like, consistently well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think because and the thing is, I even liked the earlier stuff with the war. I really liked the Marshal as a character. I think John Woodvine's performance is really really compelling. I even like the sort of the clandestine dealings he's got with the Shadows. That's interesting. I don't know what the solution is, but I guess I would just want it to be packaged together more cohesively. That being said, as I have often brought up, this is classic Doctor Who. There were constraints put onto it. There are a lot of narrative quirks that you kind of just have to get used to. Some work better than others. And I'm still willing to accept those flaws for what they are. Although I do agree with you guys that this story could have been at least an episode shorter than it was.
I think it's
exactly what cut out, I don't know, but
it's a lot of the walking around. Like, they go to where Romana's been captured, then they leave to go to the throne room, and then they go back, and then the room is empty, and then they head back to do the deal with the Marshal, and then they go back again to examine Romana's quarters, like captive area again. Like, there's a lot of going back and forth between the same two locations in around like the late episode 2 throughout episode 3 part of the story that feels like you rewrite it and just mush them all together. I think that's largely where it started. And also, just in general, I think that Zeos, when we go there, isn't very interesting to look at. I think I would have liked to have seen more of Zeos from like a world building perspective. Like, we mainly just see some dusty corridors and a computer. And there's like, I wanted to know, well, where are the locals? Like, what happened to them? I don't know if the episode actually ever says what happened to them. I would have liked to have seen some of the people to figure out like what's going on with them. Like, the Black Guardians obviously influenced the computer and the Marshal, but like, what do people on the ground think? It's not
I don't even
important, but given that we've built up in the first half of the episode this image of at least the Marshal's view of what the natives of Zeos think and like what they look like and what they are, I think it would have been at least like thematically rich to explore, well, what are they?
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't even mind the fact that all the Zeons were gone. I like that twist. I think it's quite interesting. But maybe exploring a bit more of what happened to them, how that fits in with the world building a little bit more, that might have made it a bit more interesting.
Well, it's more that when the threat of the Marshal firing and the feedback destroying both planets, they mentioned something like 2 civilizations killed. And in my head, I'm like, wait, is it 2 civilizations killed? Because it's heavily implied, at least, that there is no one on Zeos, and it's just the computer running things. Unless I missed something because I zoned out. But like, that's the bit that I think was a bit unclear as a result of what we see of Zeos.
Sure. Sorry, Sam, we went on a bit of a tangent there. Do you have any commentary on these aspects?
No, I was just one of the main things I thought for like the war part at the beginning. I'm going to say the first half of a sentence that will instill fear in Cuff's heart, but I promise it's not going that way. It reminded me of an episode of Stargate SG-1.
Ooh. Okay, you were close. That first, you had been in the first half.
So basically, the idea in that episode is they find a planet. The Stargate leads to this underground bunker of these people who are at war. You're hearing bombs go off on the surface, all that kind of thing, yada 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 yada. And they're like, okay, well maybe we are potential allies here. That could be advantageous to us. They have this method for generating energy that would be solve the energy crisis 100 times over.
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel, who's the cultural expert of the team, is shouldn't we know more about why the war is happening first? And when they get to that, ultimately they're like, yeah, so what's the deal with those guys that you're fighting? And the woman he's talking to is like, oh, we call them breeders. They're like, why is that? Well, it's because they reproduce without any care for racial purity and that kind of thing. I'm sure you understand. And there's an earlier scene where the lead guy is like, maybe don't bring Teal'c back here. And at first you think it's because he's a Jafar, he's not human, but then you realize it's oh, I just don't like that he's black. So in the end, O'Neill just in a remote pilot drone leads the enemy ships right to their base, and they just fuck off through the Stargate and well, those Nazis were all nuked. That's a successful day for the team of SG-1.
God.
So obviously this doesn't go exactly in that direction, but the setup of we have this ongoing nuclear war endlessly, and the guy in charge is clearly just a fucking evil zealot who just cares about winning, doesn't care about why the war is being fought anymore. It reminded me of that.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of 1984.
Yeah.
You got what I thought it was going to be was a government bombing their own people and saying over the screens, "Everyone, the war's going very well. We will achieve victory."
Yeah,
it was very 1984.
I thought of that too.
And even when they start torturing the doctor and electrocuting him to get information out of him, I was like, "This is just Winston being tortured in the Ministry of Love." There's a lot of weird and I presume accidental 1984 parallels because the story isn't about
I don't think it's
government controlling what people can think. That's not what the story is about, so it can't be that much of an homage.
But I think I thought that too. Particularly early on, we've got the marshal on the screen, and then one of the things that is actually interesting, in terms of the Atrios side of things, far from it being a war that is fake, they're losing it, and they're losing it pretty badly, which is an interesting twist that I thought was kind of clever. It was, I thought it was pretty compelling.
Something I think doesn't help the episode, and it might be I mentioned that the segments of it were a bit repetitive when they were jumping back and forth between the same two locations. Another thing that was repetitive about it was it seemed like they had this pattern of, okay, we've got our characters, our main characters, they're on the right track. We need a small element of conflict or something to go slightly wrong to throw them off. I know, let's have Merak do something stupid because he's in love with Astra. It happens so often. He would it's obviously his character. He's allowed to be in love, but that's kind of all he was. At the start of the episode, he at least had this he was a pacifist and he objected to the war and he was doing his best to take care of all the people. The hospital wards were overflowing, but that is very very quickly dropped and he just becomes this lost puppy where whenever the episode needs there to be a bit of conflict, he just walks away from the group calling out for Astra, even though he's just fucking seen her turn into a cube. It got a bit laughable by a certain point, and again, a bit repetitive. I think it happened 4 or 5 times total.
Sure. Yeah, I see what you mean, because at the beginning he is depicted as this sort of revolutionary type. You can think, oh, there could be something really thematically rich here, and then in the end, I mean, that's not what happens.
Nope.
Yeah, like
also,
him and the princess are pacifists, not so that they can say something about the nature of war, but just so that they can like be kind of just like morally superior to the marshal.
Which is not very hard to do.
That's fine, but it would have been more interesting if you do something with it, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. There's actually in the Big Finish audio drama I Davros, there's a subplot where Davros' sister falls in love with a rebellious pacifist who's secretly working against the government. That's a more interesting example of this sort of dynamic, but that's a future to Who's problem.
Sure. I do find it interesting that Astra, a person, was the final piece of the key, and like apparently that idea came from Douglas Adams, who was a story consultant on this episode. It leads to maybe my favorite moment of the whole episode, besides Drax, which is the clash between Romana and the Doctor and partway through episode 6.
Oh yeah, no, that was good.
Where they're talking about, Doctor, what have we done? Like, you know, this and that. Just like it was really intense, and it reminds me, like, the Doctor and companions clash in classic Who, but there's never really a huge like clash of ideologies like this.
Yeah,
like
you don't do it a lot.
There's no like Donna and the Doctor butting heads because of like differences of opinion where like it goes beyond. Like in classic Who, that'll just be like a 1 or 2 line exchange that ends with the Doctor saying something a bit silly. But like here, it was like a full conversation. It was a full exchange, and it was very, very well written, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that I can't remember which one of you mentioned it, but Mary Tam, she felt like she was becoming a bit of a damsel in distress, and I agree, it's unfortunate, but yes, that's what Romana's character was sort of becoming. But this little moment was a really good moment for her to sort of snatch back some of that agency, because that doesn't really happen in Doctor Who, in classic Who, I mean. As you say, you'll get some conflicts between the Doctor and companions, but it's mostly played off as a joke. Or, I mean, the most I could think of off the top of my head is the conflicts between the Doctor and Adric, and that ends with him stubbornly staying behind on a ship and dying. So that's a bit of a different thing. So having that here is actually very interesting, I think, and certainly one of the stronger moments in the story.
Well, I think it's also very sensible in the way that it leads into the confrontation with the Black Guardian, which isn't very long, but the fact that it's a conscious being is one of the key pieces becomes paramount in figuring out what's going on. Like the White Guardian would never devalue life to that extent. Well, this must be the Black Guardian then.
Yeah.
And I do like that the solution becomes, well, let's just scatter the pieces again. No one should have this kind of power. Let's revive Astra so that she and her dumbass puppy boyfriend can be happy together.
Yeah. I do like, particularly through the second half of the story, how the Doctor is just like one step ahead of everything. It's just like, yeah, okay, well, Astra's clearly being mind controlled. That's obvious. But I'm just going to let it ride to see where it goes. White Guardian is clearly evil, so I'm just going to do some very basic, like, catch you in a lie tests. And like, told you.
Actually, there's a couple of things I wanted to bring up here. And this could just be me zoning out of the story. That's entirely possible. I don't remember specifically the moments where they actually like got the final piece of the key, where they said, here it is, let's, do something with it. And then right at the end, you say that their idea was to scatter it throughout time and space. I don't remember that either. Can either of you just help me here with this? Because they
pick up the sixth piece, like when Astra walks towards the key and it turns her into the sixth piece.
And
the Doctor resizes and gets the jump.
She like realizes that
right.
this is her destiny.
Okay.
She's supposed to
and
be
then
here. She's the sixth daughter of the sixth house or whatever. I'm like, oh, 6. She's the key. All right.
She's the devil.
That bit.
And then she just like turns into the last bit of like clear plastic to
and then
make
the Doctor
cube.
Right, okay.
suddenly and surprisingly, like, he gets the jump on the shadow by resizing and just sort of yoinks it from off the ground while before the shadow.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I'm struggling to remember the exact moment. It's like, here's the final piece. Let's go, Romana. But that's probably just a me thing. That's fine. Yeah.
It's literally she just turns into it and then it's on the floor.
Yeah, okay, sure.
And then they just pick it up and run off.
Yeah, and in terms of, like, we don't actually see the Doctor dispersing the pieces, but like he snaps the tracer, and then we see the pieces like separating and scattering, and then in a later scene, Romana says something like,
"Yeah,
you know, like, good idea hiding all the pieces again, Doctor," or something like that.
And then the princess reappears again next to her boyfriend and is like, "I'm back."
Okay, I don't know. Actually, you know what? No, I do know the answer to this question. Slight peek behind the curtain. While I was watching this story, I was distracted because Alex, for the audience, Alex and I are in a play at the moment, and I got a book of those, clear plastic sheets that you put, pieces of paper in, and I was putting all of the sheets of paper from the script into them, which involved me taking them out of the other book of clear plastic sheets that I had and moving them into the new one.
Well, God knows you needed to do that, because I don't know how you stapled your script together when you received it, but it was a hodgepodge from what I've seen.
Well, riveting though that was. I think one of my big questions at the end of this story was the White Guardian always just the Black Guardian? Like, when we see him at the beginning of Ribos, is that the real White Guardian who is sending the Doctor on a quest? Or is it the Black Guardian playing both sides? I mean, yeah, but like that could be for any reason.
Sure.
And he specifically said he can take the form of basically anything. So
I mean, I think the general consensus is that in Ribos Operation it was the real White Guardian. I think narratively it also makes sense as well, because they use his words from Ribos Operation as a test of character for why the figure that they see in this couldn't possibly be the White Guardian. You know what I mean? Like, in Ribos they talk about, I am the guardian of time and I value the sanctity of life, blah, blah, blah. And they use those words specifically to undo the Black Guardian's lie.
Yeah, fair enough then.
Right.
Because
I did have that thought.
I couldn't remember I couldn't remember the thing well enough, and it had been my theory that if they're going to pull any kind of twist, that would be the same person.
Yeah, I was thinking they would do that as well.
Because like then you could be like, I have the shadow guy, who also initially I just assumed he was the Black Guardian.
Yep, so did I.
So like I thought it actually kind of made for a cool moment where he was like, "Yes, I serve my master." I was like, "Oh, you're the Darth Vader, not the Palpatine." Okay, that's interesting.
I did have that thought of like,
granted the Black White Guardian stuff does get resolved fairly quickly.
Very quickly, yeah.
The main bulk of the story is over, but like it was still interesting, so it wasn't too bothered.
Yeah. I suppose so.
The Black Guardian returns, by the way, in the when Turlo, the companion, gets introduced in the during the Fifth Doctor era. He is actually secretly serving the Black Guardian on a mission to destroy the Doctor.
I'd never seen that story, but I do remember finding out that Turlo was initially like some kind of assassin.
Yeah.
Mole, yeah.
Who was then convinced to be a good guy.
Yeah, basically.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I'll tell you what stunned
It's
me.
a shame. It's a shame the show's over because Russell really could have blown
The Black
everyone's
Guardian
socks
is...
off and generated so much content when he reveals that the old lady who shows up in every episode of series 3 of his revived revival is in fact the Black Guardian.
Yeah, it's ripe for the plucking there. Something that kind of stunned me for a bit is like you've got this like I'm not necessarily thinking that it was like the most like gritty or realistic thing, but it's a somewhat serious war episode with like characters that care about each other. It's somewhat grounded in reality. Like even when Drax rocks up, it doesn't destroy the tone that much. And then at the start of episode 6, it just becomes Ant-Man, and they're tiny all of a sudden. They've made a shrink ray, and I did have to have this moment of like, what is going on? This is I was like smiling. I was like, "This is so wacky. What is happening?"
Yeah.
And then they hitch
That's
a ride
probably a
inside of
Douglas
K9.
Adams.
Yeah, it feels like a Douglas
Oh, almost
Adams idea.
certainly, yeah. I love that they smuggled themselves into the Shadows headquarters inside of K9.
Yeah.
I think that's very,
Evil
very
K9
funny.
this episode.
Oh, Evil K9. I wish they'd done more with Evil K9.
It would have been interesting. There's also that one really great moment where instead of calling the Doctor Master, he calls him the Doctor, and the Doctor catches on to what's going on.
Yeah.
That was a fun little bit.
Yeah. Solid showing for K9, actually. He gets a lot to do in this.
Yeah, big contrast.
I liked how they even like at the start of the episode, they're like, "Don't worry, K9, there's no swamps. You actually get to be in this one."
Don't worry, and then very quickly he's almost incinerated.
Yeah, they just put him in the microwave hallway.
They put him in a furnace for no reason.
Yeah.
He's just like, it's very hot in this microwave hallway.
Yeah. Yeah, that was funny.
Oh, dear me.
He really gets a bit of a hard time, doesn't he? Because he either can't join in because he's going in the swamp, he nearly gets incinerated, he goes into the ocean and blows up at some point.
Walks into the ocean for no reason.
Yeah, poor K9.
But he gets to talk to Mentalis.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting, actually. I thought that was really cool.
K9 being this like go-between between the supercomputer that's been programmed for one thing, but also just loves having a little chat with K9.
Yeah. Am I remembering right? Is there a point where like the Doctor asks him to translate and he's like, "Shut up, I'm doing it."
Yes, that happens.
Yeah, something to that effect, yeah. And the bit where he says to the Doctor, like, yeah, he basically says, yeah, it was fun talking to a creature that wasn't a fucking idiot, for once.
Oh dear.
Is there much else to say with this story? I don't want to jump the gun too much, but...
Well, here's something. I don't think we have much to say about the episode. How do we feel about the key to time narrative now that it's resolved? Because I think there were a couple of things that I was concerned about. One thing I was concerned about is that we wouldn't get to see the true power of the key. You know, that episode 6 would end with finding the final part, popping it in, and then dealing with the Guardian. But I love that the key is actively used in the story as like a glimpse of its power, even when not fully assembled, as a way of just being like, oh, holy shit, like this thing can do anything. So that was one thing. But the other thing I was also thinking is like, again, like now that the whole storyline is wrapped up, how do we feel about them trying this? How do we feel about these different MacGuffins across different storylines, all being connected in some way? Like, did it serve those storylines? Did it serve itself overall? Would all of these individual stories be better served without this long-running thread? Because again, this is the first time Doctor Who tried something like this properly, and I think it's interesting to think about, like, does it stick the landing?
I would say the worst of these stories, nothing is added by the key to time element, but even the worst of them, nothing is detracted.
Sure.
Like even Power of Kroll, which I think we all agreed was the weakest of the 6 stories, the fact that it was part of the key to time wasn't any of the reasons why it had problems.
Yeah.
I think if they did more of, because I forget specifically which ones and what powers they had, but when they were like, this specific part of the key to time has this power to do this thing.
I completely forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, they seem to drop that.
Was it Stones of Blood that did that?
I think it was Pirate Planet.
Maybe it was Pirate Planet. But like,
yeah.
Again, one last time, let's compare this to Del Toro Quest. Like, each of the gems in that series have special powers that I in the context of Key to Time, I don't necessarily need to see, the Doctor and Romana using previous pieces to help solve problems in this story. But I think if each key had a clearly defined power that it could do, and that played a part in the story in some way, that would help. But as I say, none of them are actively made worse.
It was I'm sorry, it was the Stones of Blood.
It was
the Cesare of Diplos had found out how to use the segment she had obtained to travel to Earth and use its power of transmogrification, temporarily appearing as the Fourth Doctor to Romana. It's when she disguises herself as Tom Baker.
I thought there was some special power it had in the Pirate Planet. And that it.
I mean, it could be that as well. I'm not seeing that on this.
Okay.
On the wiki right now. So,
what I'm thinking of as like a special power, I think it might have just been a side effect of it being a key to time piece. Like it helped form the planet around itself. I hope I'm remembering that right, but something to the effect. But yeah, it would have been interesting, I guess.
Oh, I thought so. Okay, so there was a comic story for the Doctor Who's 30th anniversary called Time and Time Again. It stars the 7th Doctor and Ace, and it's essentially another key to time where they look for the 6 scattered pieces. But because it's a 30th anniversary special starring the 7th Doctor, each of the pieces is disguised as something relating to a previous Doctor.
Right. Okay.
So there's the second Doctor's hat, a jelly baby with a missing leg, a fencing sword used by the 3rd Doctor, a cricket ball hit by the 5th Doctor, a cat badge owned by the 6th Doctor, and the TARDIS instruction manual, which was dropped by the 1st Doctor.
Do you reckon that cricket ball was the one that Peter Davison hit in Black Orchid?
Yes, explicitly. That's what it says here.
Oh, okay.
A cricket ball hit by the 5th Doctor at Lord Cranley's party at the latter's home. It's insane that for the 30th anniversary comic special, they were like, which 5th Doctor story do we harken back to here? Only the classics, only the hits. Black Orchid.
In fairness, he always has like the cricket outfit, so that is an iconic part of his design, and that's really the only one where he actually plays cricket. So... if that's the part of his design you want to harken to, your hands are kind of tied there.
You can make it the celery.
I was going to say, the only other alternative really is it's a celery stalk.
And then you can reference Caves of Androzani, which is by far the more well-regarded story. The 2nd Doctor's hat is from the Mind Robber, which we've seen.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember the 2nd Doctor having a hat.
It's from the land of fiction in the mind drama.
I do remember him having a recorder,
you said the words Second Doctor's hat, and my brain skipped over second and thought of Tom Baker twice in a row. I was just yeah, that makes... Oh, no, wait. No, that doesn't make sense.
It should have been the Second Doctor's recorder, although maybe that would have screwed up with what was established in the Three Doctors. But anyway. So, okay, look, I think overall, especially now that you guys have explained how that ending worked, because I was really mystified and thought, oh, that ending was really unsatisfying, but now that I have that in context, I think it was pretty good. Definitely some stories better than others, even in the way it used the key to time. But I like what they did with it. Even if it was to give the stories a bit of extra tension. It's like, oh, we gotta find this, and oh no, evil Count. No, that's not anything important. That's just a stone that I found. Things like that.
I think the one thing that I think was missing from this storyline as a whole is I think it would have served, especially the ending of the whole thing, if we felt the presence of the Black Guardian somehow meddling throughout all of these instances. Like, if the Black Guardian was already doing something to time that we needed the key to stop. Like, if he was responsible for making
the Black Guardian
for
perhaps
example,
showed up at the end of each episode and
no,
turned to the camera to say, "Oh,
no, motherfucker! I've given you explicit instructions of what I wanted." I want the Black Guardian to be...
seen a TARDIS before? Ooh.
I don't want the Black Guardian to Stan Lee it. I want the Black Guardian to Thanos it, where we can feel Thanos' influence throughout all the different steps leading up to Infinity War. This is what I wanted from the Black Guardian.
Here's a question. Would you prefer if he acted as kind of like a Harold Saxon sort of a presence? Like this thing that's in the background, it's doing stuff, but you're not sure what that stuff is until the very end.
I mean, the reason Harold Saxon works is because you have Earth as an anchor point that you always come back to every now and then. I don't know that kind of structure works necessarily when we are just going to effectively 6 random places with no connection to each other outside of the fact that they happen to have keys to time.
Yeah, because it's been a while since I've seen Ribos Operation, but my memory of the opening talk with the White Guardian was something like, "Oh, the Black Guardian is also looking for the key, so I need you to find it first." If it had instead been more of like "Oh, the Black Guardian is awakening from his like eternal hibernation, and the entirety of reality can feel his effects. Like everything is becoming like slightly wrong, where there's like." Like, people are behaving worse. There are like, there's a bigger sense of chaos and disorder, and we need the key to stop it. And I think that's something like that. I think we could justify, especially since like we don't go anywhere else besides the 6 places with the key.
I don't think that we're given specifics about it, but he does say something to the effect of time is going to go all fucked up unless I can use the key to fix it.
I mean, that's a.
But then he just never really expands on it, and it doesn't really get brought up here either.
Yeah, so, which is why I think which is part of the reason why I think you and I, Sam, had the instinct of this White Guardian's also Black Guardian, because it's enough information to start the quest, but it's nowhere near specific enough to make the Black Guardian actually seem like a tangible threat. Whereas if there was this more like lingering sense of dread throughout all 6 stories, it would have like served, and then when you get the White Guardian, quote unquote, appearing at the end, then you do get the twist of, oh no, this one's the Black Guardian, and it helps it land a bit better. I think that's the only thing this storyline was missing overall, is just the Black Guardian's influence.
I've been the Black Guardian this whole time.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of individual stories, nothing is gained or lost. Well, there are some gains, but nothing is lost overall by its inclusion. I do think that overall, the Key to Time storyline was missing a bit of oomph that it could have had if the Black Guardian was a more consistent threat. But other than that, neat experiment for 1978. It worked about as well as it could have.
I would say it's a success. Not a huge success, but a success.
Yeah, sure. I think that's fair.
But in terms of the Armageddon Factor, what do we think? I'm giving it a 7.
I'm thinking 8.
I think 6.
Which averages out to a 7. All right. If for some reason you didn't watch last week's episode or listen to it, but you saw that it was Journey's End, the classic pattern is at this point we would take our season break. We'd have some off-season episodes in the middle. Nope, we're still planning on. We've got 5 more episodes of the 2009 specials to watch before we get to the end of, the extended series 4, which is how I've always viewed it. And so we will have 5 other classic episodes in between them. But next week. Yeah, sorry?
Actually, I wanted to raise this before. I would like, preferably the next few episodes, but at least sometime this year, I really want to look at the Big Finish audio story of I Davros. I think it's really quite good. I think you'll find it quite entertaining. Sam, certainly, if you want to join us for that, you're welcome. And it's just something I've wanted to look at for quite a while.
We can either do it in this chunk of specials because it's not a full season of the show, or we can do it in the off season as a one-off Big Finish review.
We can. We'll
have that discussion at a later date. But
yeah, for sure.
It doesn't change the fact that next week on the podcast we will be reviewing the 2008 Christmas special, The Next Doctor. Until then, I'm Alex.
I'm Fitz.
I'm Sam.
Until then, I'm Alex.
I'm Fitz.
I'm sorry, what?
Until then, I'm Alex.
I'm Fitz.
I'll have no further part of this. Fuck the boat.
I don't know if you could hear that in the recording, but Sam fully left the Discord call.
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay. Oh, well.
Until then,
that's fair.